Much later, after we finished dinner and had retired for the night, my parents drifted off to sleep instantly. But sleep eluded me, probably because I slept so much during the day. I remained awake, counting the ceiling and calculating how many hours we had in this hell of a village before returning back to Lagos. As I enjoyed the silence of the night, I began to hear some sound. At first, they were unsettling, scary that I had to cling onto my sleeping mom, my gaze fixed on the open window, low-key expecting some creepy creatures to start jumping in. But then the sound morphed into some sweet melodies that seemed to fill the night air. Maybe some nightingale, I muttered as I disengaged from mom. I listened intently to the sweet melodies, my curiosity growing with each passing moment. Eventually, I could no longer resist the urge to investigate, so I slipped down the bed and walked quietly down the open window. As I peeped into the darkness, I expected to see a bird perch on a branch of a nearby tree or even the rooftop of Grandma's cage, but what I saw instead made my heart skip. Grandma, seated on a low bench, some distance away from the window, her back turned to the window. I almost turned and ran back, but something by the side of her leg captivated my attention. It was long, flexible, shiny white and glowing. I strained my eyes trying to figure out what it was about, but the more I looked, the more my mind conjured different images. Is it an electric wire? A white rope? I just couldn't place my finger on what. As I was trying to figure out what I was seeing, my gaze fell upon Grandma's hair. It had transformed into a brilliant white. She had grey hair, I knew that, but this was snowy white. Almost immediately, I noticed her hands and legs. In fact, every part of her body began to shift into a dark charcoal hue. A shiver ran down my spine as I noticed the object that had first captivated begin to move, and then that was when I knew it was a tail. But before I could process what was happening, Grandma's form morphed into a majestic black cat with a snowy white head and a tail that gleamed in the dim light. The cat let out a piercing meow, and in the blink of an eye, it leapt over the bench and vanished into darkness. I had been transfixed at the window, too shocked to even make a sound, but the sudden sound of cat meow snapped me back to life. I scrambled onto the bed, my body trembling and covered in sweat. Mom, Mom, I called her, gently tapping her shoulder. She slowly opened her eyes, rubbing the sleep from them. What's wrong? She asked, her voice grudgy. It's Grandma, I said, pointing towards the window. What about her? She asked, her brow furrowed in concern. She turned into a cat, I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. Mom's expression changed from concern to confusion. What did you say? She asked, leaning in closer. Grandma turned into a cat, I repeated, my voice a bit louder now. She sighed and sat up in bed. Another bad dream? She asked. I shook my head vigorously. No, Mom, this wasn't a dream. I saw her through the window. She turned into a big black cat with a white head. I said, Cinderella, what were you doing at the window this late? You were starting to imagine things, she said, her voice firm but worried. I'm telling you, Mom, I saw her. She turned into a cat and left the house. I insisted. Just then, Dad stared and turned towards us. What is going on? Why are you both up? He asked, rubbing his eyes. I opened my mouth to explain, but Mom cut me off. Never mind, he's just having a bad dream, she said, patting my back. Not true, Dad. I saw. I tried to protest, pointing at the window again, but Mom gently interrupted me. It's okay, sweetheart. It was just a dream. Lie down and close your eyes. Let's have some sleep. She pulled me close and patted my back soothingly. I gave up trying to convince her. I knew what I saw, but it seemed like she just didn't want to believe me. I will keep what I saw to myself and ensure to stay clear of Grandma by all means. She is not ordinary. I made up my mind before I drifted to bed. But in the morning brought a harsh reality that put our planned journey on hold and forced us to revisit the events of the night. We were jolted awake by the sheer ring of Dad's phone beside the bed. He grudgingly picked it up. Hello? He answered in a sleepy voice. But as he listened, his demeanor changed abruptly. He sat up straight, his voice rising in urgency. What are you saying? When did this happen? Mom, sensing that something was wrong, sat up instantly. What's going on? She asked, her voice laced with concern. Dad's expression was grim. Our shop. There's been a fire outbreak in the market last night, he said as he dropped the call. Mom covered her mouth in terror. Please tell me it's not true, she cried. Our store has been completely destroyed. His voice was heavy with sorrow. Mom's eyes widened in horror. Oh my God, she exclaimed. Let me tell you more about our shop. Dad managed a thriving electronic accessory store at Alaba International Market in Lagos, one of the largest markets in the city. The store was a hub of gadgets and electronics, staffed by a team of salespersons who worked diligently under Dad's guidance. In our absence, they managed the shop and kept Dad updated on the latest development. The news was so devastating. Our shop, which held stocks millions of naira, has been reduced to ashes. What added to the mystery was that no other shop around us was affected. Oh my God, Dad exclaimed as he quickly slid down the bed and began pacing up and down, muttering to himself, Please calm down, just please calm down. Remember what the doctor said the last time about your blood pressure. Mom pleaded as she stood up to meet him. This is not the end of the world, she added, trying to reassure him as she pulled him to a seat. He sat down, breathing rapidly and heavily. Mom rushed outside and returned minutes later with a cup of water. Please drink some water, she said, handing it to him. He took a sip and then dropped the water noisily on the table. His legs trembling, he sat there for a long time, his body tense. Mom never left his side. She sat beside him, patting his back and whispering soothing words to calm him down. How could a fire outbreak be so precise? He lamented. No other shop was affected, he added. Mom's expression changed instantly, her eyes widening in concern. No other shop was affected. Are you serious? She asked. Dad nodded. Then this is not ordinary, she said, her voice low and serious. This is spiritual. Wait, she trailed off, as if remembering something and turned to me. Cinderella, she called her softly. Yes, Mommy, I answered. What did you say happened last night? Come over and repeat it, she said. Without hesitation, I slipped down from the bed, walked over, and began recounting my experience to them. After listening, Dad sighed and turned to her. What does a childish dream have to do with a situation at hand? He asked. I almost dismissed it as a dream too, but it is obvious that it is not, Mom said. Dad lowered his eyebrow. So what is it? He asked. Mom took a deep breath and lowered her voice. David, have you ever asked Cinderella why he's scared at the sight of Mama? She asked. Dad's gaze shifted to me. Why? He asked. Mom encouraged me to explain again. I began to tell Dad how Grandma was the old woman from my dream over the years. Dad's face darkened with anger. Shut up, he yelled at me before turning to face my mom. What is the meaning of this nonsense he's saying? He asked. Mom shook her head. David, he's not saying nonsense. Forget that he's a kid. Have you ever wondered why things always get tough whenever we are in the village? Or haven't you ever wondered why all pregnancies ended in miscarriages whenever we are in the village? Dad's eyes narrowed. Are you indirectly saying that our problems are from this village? He asked. Not just the village. This house, she said, her voice rising a bit. Dad's eyes widened in surprise and confusion. What are you talking about? He asked. Mom's words spilled out in a rush. David, let's call a spade a spade. I think Mama is responsible for everything happening to us. She's evil, she screamed. I have never seen Mom yell at Dad before, and his reaction was immediate. He slammed his hand hard on the table, his eyes blazing with anger. Enough, he yelled. Mom stopped abruptly, her chest heaving. Dad's face was red with rage. Is anything wrong with you? How dare you sit before me and speak trash? How dare you call my mother a witch, he howled. At that instant, Grandma was running into the room, clutching a broom. Mommy, Mommy, I screamed, clinging to her as Grandma busted into the room that morning. My heart was racing. Dad's face twisted in anger. Will you stop that rubbish? What is wrong with you? He yelled at me. I felt a surge of fear, but Mom's gentle touch calmed me down. She wrapped me around her arms. in my shoulder, pulling me close. "Stay calm, I'm here," she whispered, assuring. I held onto her tightly, my breathing rapid and ragged. Grandma's eyes scanned the room for a while before she spoke. As I saw glances at her, she looked so different to me. I could have sworn I saw invisible strands of whiskers by the side of her lips. "What is happening here, Onyedikachi?" I thought I was hearing voices, she asked, looking confused. Her voice now seems to echo in my mind, hauntingly similar to the mewing of a cat. Mom's gentle stroking on my back was the only thing that kept me grounded, and I clung to her like a life wire. "That sign. Don't worry, Mama. It's nothing," he said, his voice dismissive. "Nothing?" she muttered, glancing at me and Mommy, and then back at Daddy. "Did you say nothing? Why then were you raising your voice?" she asked. "It's nothing serious. We are only ironing out a few things," he said. Eh, seems you don't want to share with me," she asked. Dad shook his head. "Mama, like I said, it's nothing serious. Don't bother yourself," he insisted. "I see." She heaved a sigh and turned her gaze at my mother. "Nwanyofe Manu, you see my problems with you? You don't greet. You don't even teach your pet to. That's bad," she shook her head. "Good morning, Mama," Mama muttered and faced the opposite direction. "Biko, keep your greetings to yourself. I don't need it." She sighed and started walking towards the exit. But on getting to the door, she turned around to face the room one more time, her hand on the curtain. "Meanwhile, Akwabata is here," she said, smiling at Dad. Mom turned around sharply, like she wanted to say something, but she changed her mind and just stared at her. "Onyedikachi, did you hear what I said?" Grandma asked. "I heard you well, Mama," he said. "And you are not saying anything." She signed. Anyways, the beautiful lady was on her way to the stream and had to come and check if I had clothes for washing so that she could help me with them, she said. "That's good," Mom muttered, and she nodded. "She's indeed a good person." "Yes, she is. I don't know why you refuse to see her for who she is. Aku is a very nice girl. She has a good heart, very loyal, beautifully endowed, industrious. This girl doesn't sleep until the rising of the sun," she said, glancing at Mom. "Mama, can you please stop? Stop for goodness sake. Stop all this. It's getting annoying," Dad screamed. "Onyedikachi, you are shouting at me, your mother, because of Nwanyofe Manu." "It's all right," Grandma said, her voice echoing through the roof. She shot Mom an evil glance before storming out of the room. Neither of my parents said a word after she left. At one point, Mom picked up her phone from the bed and walked towards the door. I stood up and followed closely behind her. As we stepped outside, we saw Grandma seated in the front of the door, accompanied by the same woman she had introduced to Dad a few days ago. A large bucket filled with clothes sat between them. Their laughter echoed through the air as we passed, but Mom and I ignored them and walked over to a shaded area in the compound. We sat down on a log. Mom died her sister at Badagry. "Sister Joke, I'm dead," she began. "What is it, Wura? Talk to me." Her sister panicked, came from the other end. With eyes filled with tears, Mom began to narrate her experience to her. How she lost the pregnancy, Grandma's trouble. "Jesus Christ, Wurayo, is this what you've been keeping from me all this while?" Her sister asked. "Sister, I didn't mean to. You know how bad the Airtel network is in this village. In fact, I even came outside to make this call," Mom explained. "Wura," her sister called softly, "do you remember I warned you not to embark on that journey? But you did so. You ignored me and went ahead to play the submissive wife. Have you seen it now?" She continued. "Oh my God, Wurayo, what are you still doing in that village? What are you doing over there?" Auntie Ajoke cried out when Mom told her about the pussycat incident. "We are supposed to leave tomorrow or next, but just this morning we received bad news from Lagos. Our shop at Alaba burned down yesterday night," Mom announced, her voice almost in a whisper. "Oh my God, you and your husband must be really going through a lot at this moment." Auntie Ajoke sympathized. "Yes, sister, we really are. We don't even know where to start from," she said. "Wura, please just come back to Lagos. Bring Sindara with you. Don't worry, you both can stay in my house until your husband fixes things up. You can't stay in that unhealthy environment," Auntie Ajoke pleaded. "Sister, I can't leave my husband here with his mother, Mom complained. Wura, your husband should be the least of your worries right now. The woman in question is his mother. He won't harm him. Please leave. Leave him and come over, Auntie Ajoke further pressed. Not that, sister. The thing is that she's bringing in another woman for him. The same woman she has been pushing at him, Mom said. The Aquabata? Her sister asked. Yes, Mom nodded. What? The lady is still single? After all these years? Wurayo, this is the reason you need to start coming back home. This is no longer ordinary. Auntie Ajoke pleaded. Sister, Mom tried to say something, but she didn't let her finish. Wura, don't you say anything anymore. Stand up and start getting ready. If money is a problem, I'm sending some money to you right now. My house is your home, and you are not homeless, please, she said. Later that evening, I heard Dad telling Mom to remain in the village with me while he went to Lagos to sort things out. Mom didn't respond until he started packing his bag later at night. Then she began packing her bags too. What is going on, Wura? He asked, looking confused. I'm getting our things ready, she replied. Didn't you hear what I said earlier? He asked. David, you can't leave us here with your mother. That is not happening, she said firmly. Wura, I'm not living here forever. I'll be gone for just a few days, and I'll make arrangements for both of you to join me soon. Please understand, Dad pleaded. But she stood her ground. David, don't worry about us. Cinderella and I will be fine. Just take us out of this village. We can stay with Sister Ajoke while you sort her things. She won't mind. When he realized the argument wasn't going anywhere, he gave up and started making arrangements for 3 of us to go back to the city the next day. Our bags were packed and it seems we were all set to leave. However, early the next morning, Mom started bleeding heavily again. On the day we were supposed to leave the village, we woke up very early in the morning, took our bath, and while Mom and I were getting dressed, Dad was busy taking our things out to the car. By the time he came back for the last bag, we are done. You both should wait in the car. I will just close the windows and flee the room, Mom said. Don't waste my time, oh. It's past 6 already, Dad muttered as we walked out of the room. Outside, Grandma was seated on the same stool she sat on the night of the pussycat incident, her back resting on the wall. When she saw us, she turned her face away. Mama, we are leaving, no, Dad announced. Ijoma, meaning safe journey, she muttered, still not turning to look at us. Dad patted her back and we walked towards the car. It seemed she went inside immediately after that because by the time we got into the car, she was no longer sitting there. Waited patiently for Mom to come out, but she didn't show up. Dad called out to her, signing every minute and muttering inaudible words to himself. 10 minutes passed and she still hadn't appeared. Dad's patience wore thin. What's taking your mother so long? She said. She just closed the window, but it's been ages, he foamed, hitting the steering wheel. She also mentioned fleeting the room. I reminded him. Fleeting the room shouldn't take this long. Look at the time, he exclaimed, showing me his phone screen. I think she's the one coming, I said when I heard something like the sound of a wardrobe door slamming shut. We waited another 2 minutes, and when she didn't show up, Dad sent me after her. Bokochukwu, go and tell your mother that if you are not moving by 6:30, both of you are staying behind, he commanded. I opened the car door to go, but then I remembered Grandma and hesitated gently, closing the door back. He turned to look at me. I said you should go and call your mother. Did you not hear me? He asked. Daddy, I'm scared, I began, but he wouldn't let me finish before he threw me a slap. Luckily, I dodged it and quickly slid down and ran back to the house. His voice echoed from behind me. Naughty boy, your mother is spoiling you, but I will soon put a stop to that. But then, as I ran into the room, my leg hit something just by the doorstep. I almost tripped and fell. When I looked down, my heart was pounding. It was Mom, lying in a pool of blood. Fear gripped me as I bent down to tap her. Mommy, Mommy, I called out, but she only moved her lips weakly without making a single sound. Daddy! I screamed at the top of my lungs. Dad rushed in, almost tripping over her in the process. Her eyes widened in shock when he looked in the scene before him. Wura, oh my gosh, he explained. And without another word, he quickly lifted up and hurried out of the car. I followed behind crying. By then, Grandma stood outside redoing her wrapper. "You people haven't gone yet?" she asked, seemingly unbothered. Dad ignored her and kept moving towards the car. What is wrong with Nwaanyị Manu?" she asked, walking behind us. "Mama, I don't know. Don't know what is wrong with my wife again," Dad replied, gently laying Mom down at the back seat of the car. I was about to get into when he pushed me away and shut the door. "We are going to the hospital. You stay back with Grandma," he said firmly. My worst nightmare. "No, no, 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 no," I cried as I tried to open the door, but he shot me a warning glance and quickly backed away. "Daddy, please don't leave me," I screamed, running after him to the driver's side. "Don't make me give you a dirty slap again," he warned me sternly, before getting in and locking the door at my face. "Daddy, please," I continued pleading. "Stay with Grandma," he shouted from the window. "No, Daddy," I cried, tapping frantically on the door, pleading, but my cries were ignored as the car sped away. I turned to look at Grandma. She was standing there staring at me with a kind of hatred that only my eyes alone could see. "No, no," I screamed. With that, I turned around and ran after the car. I ran out of the compound onto the quiet village street. Though I had lost track of the car, my shoes flew off my feet, and with no particular destination in my mind, I just kept running. I felt it was better I get lost than spend a lone second with Grandma. I ran until my legs eventually gave out, and I hit my foot hard on a rock. The pain was intense. I slumped to the ground crying and pressing the sore spot. Just then, I heard a faint voice calling my name. "Bokochukwu, Bokochukwu." I spun around. The voice seemed to come from the bushes. But then I saw no one. I dismissed it as my imagination and focused on my pain. After all, no one knows me in this village. But the voice persisted after a few seconds. "Bokochukwu, Bokochukwu." I turned again. This time, I saw a strange old man standing under a tree within the bush. He was wearing a long white robe and with no footwear. He seems to have appeared out of nowhere because I could have sworn he wasn't there the first time I checked. I felt goose pimples all over my body. "Bokochukwu," he called again for the third time. "Is it mine?" I asked, my voice trembling. He nodded. "Yes," he said. The pain on my foot disappeared instantly as I prepared to take my heels, but his next words stopped me in my track. "How long will you continue to run from your responsibility?" I sat down in confusion. What responsibility could a 6-year-old boy possibly have? When I turned to look again, he was slowly approaching me. I made another attempt to run, but something pinned me to a spot. "Sir, please don't hurt me," I pleaded. But he ignored my pleas and went on like I have not spoken. "Bokochukwu, go back home and face your fear. Go home and do that which you have been destined to do. The reason your life was spared among others," he continued. By now, he was standing right by my side. "Go back home," he added. "No, Grandma will kill me," I cried. "She would have done that long ago if she had the powers to," he said sharply. I stopped crying abruptly and fixed my gaze on him. "Confused, right?" he asked, smiling faintly. I nodded. He sat beside me. Surprisingly, my fear disappeared. "My son, there are things you need to know," he cleared his throat. "You see, your grandma hated your mother goes beyond tribal differences. There is more to that," he began softly. "I will tell you a story." The old man cleared his throat and began. "A very long time ago, in this land of Eziama, there once lived a poor couple who struggled to make ends meet. Their hut, the oldest and most dilapidated in the village, seemed to symbolize their hardship. Yet, amidst their struggles, they were blessed with 8 children, 8 beautiful daughters. Tragedy struck one fateful night. While the nuclear family slept, a fierce wind swept through the village, ripping off the roof of their fragile hut. The couple were crushed beneath the debris, leaving their young daughters orphaned and helpless. Their wicked uncles, unwilling to take on the responsibilities of caring for the girls, quickly arranged marriages to elderly men from different clans within the village. However, one of the daughters, Nnuego, escaped on the day of her introduction into the nearby forest. Also, in the neighboring village, A woman lived who was rumored to be a witch. The accusation remained unproven until one fateful day, news spread around the village that her husband and sons fell dead in the farm after consuming food she served them. The villagers' suspicions turned to outrage. They stormed her compound, dragging her to Igwe's palace. And without investigation or trial, the Igwe condemned her to a cruel death. Take her to the deep evil forest and put her in a position that she is going to die a slow and painful death. He had commanded. The villagers took her deep into the forest, shaved her head, stripped her of her clothes, and tied her to a tree, leaving her to perish. So when she finally escaped into the forest, Nnuego stumbled upon the witch. When Nnuego first saw the naked old woman tied to a tree, fear gripped her. She thought it might be an evil spirit from the African folklore her mother used to tell about, but the woman's desperate voice pleading for help stopped her from running. "Please help me," the woman sobbed. Nnuego's fear turned to pity, and she carefully untied her from the tree. Using her headscarf, she covered her nakedness, and that was how the two began to bond. They lived secluded life in the forest, relying on wild fruits and vegetables for sustenance. They also built simple huts to sleep in at night, and over time their relationship grew strong, like mother and daughter. With time, the woman's hair, which was the source of her powers, grew back and she resumed her witchcraft activities there in the forest. Before her death 5 years ago, she passed on her supernatural powers to Nnuego, who single-handedly buried her deep in the forest, honoring her memory. After mourning her for some months, Nnuego finally returned to Eziama village. On her return, she was met with a mixture of emotions. She saw that her sisters had built families of their own, each with at least 2 children. However, her youngest sister had died in childbirth, leaving behind 2 daughters and a legacy of pain. She wept for her sister's loss and vowed to avenge her death. Realizing she couldn't do it alone, she summoned her 6 sisters from their respective husbands' home, sharing her visions of justice and empowerment. And together, they formed a coven known as the Wounded Sisters. With their combined strength and Nnuego's newfound powers, they set out to confront the injustice that was meted out on them. The first ever task they carried out was to eliminate their different husbands. Then they turned around and wiped off the immediate families of those who had sold them into marriage. One would expect them to stop there, having achieved their goals. But no, this success and their endeavors only fueled their insatiable hunger for more blood, more powers and prowess. "We will take over the entire land of Eziama," they had declared, and began working tirelessly towards it. They believed that producing a queen would automatically secure their hold on the throne and the kingdom at large. To achieve this, each of the 6 women initiated their first daughters into the coven, passing down the tradition through generations. After years of secret battles, they finally infiltrated the palace by arranging a marriage between one of their weak daughters and the young prince. However, their efforts were thwarted when the young witch failed to produce an heir for the prince despite living in the palace for 3 years. When the Igwe passed away, the prince's inability to ascend the throne without an heir forced him to take a second wife. The coven, determined to maintain their grip on power, vowed that if they couldn't produce an heir, no one else would do that. The new queen miscarried every pregnancy, leaving the throne vacant for years. The prince finally died at old age with neither a child nor having access to the throne of his father. After his death, men from each of the 7 clans in the village came forward to be crowned king. However, on the night before the election, all 7 mysteriously died in their sleep. The village believed they were slain by the gods for a reason no one knows, but the Wounded Sisters knew better. This incident ignited fear on the villagers. No one ever declared interest on the throne ever again. That is why up to today, the village of Eziama had no king. Today, the Wounded Sisters have spread across the village, with at least one member in each extended family. Their dark magic and shape-shifting abilities are mysterious, yet their existence remained a secret. they would transform into various animals, such as snakes, cats, dogs, and bears to carry out their revenge on anyone who crossed them. With a mere thought, they could summon venom snakes to attack their enemies or conjure fierce storms to destroy their crops. Their powers were vast and terrifying, but people only sensed the evil presence without knowing the source. This was the seventh generation, and your grandma was just a key figure, initiated by her mother at a young age. Your grandma had remained devoted to the coven for years. She had been destined as the potential queen mother of the land. However, she was given a simple yet crucial task: arrange a marriage between her son and Akwabata, the first granddaughter of the head witch. Your grandmother's son, your father, had been paired with Akwabata since childhood. The two grew up together and everything seems to be on track. But Grandma did something she'd considered a mistake to this day. What was that? I asked, my curiosity growing. Enrolling your father in the uni, he said, smiling slightly. Despite the coven's tradition, her love for Western education pushed her into doing so. She wanted her son to obtain a degree. But then, your father did not only bring home a degree, but also a stranger, your mother. Grandma was displeased with this turn of events, but she knew she couldn't openly reject her son's bride without revealing the coven's secret. So, she used the only reason she thought was plausible: tribal differences. Over my dead body will my son marry Onyofe Manu, she had sworn, and she fought hard to get rid of your mother. She started by destroying your dad's businesses, hoping you would think your mother was bad luck and leave her. But that did not work. She focused on harming your mother through her unborn children. She didn't want to kill her. She enjoys her pain. She's the one responsible for all the miscarriages your mother had, and she's also behind your mother's current condition. She's even responsible for the fire outbreak in the city. She just doesn't want your dad to leave the village anymore. The strange old man then turned to me and looked at my face. And as for you, Boko Chuku, she tried to harm you too. She tried so much to ensure you were not brought into this world. She fought and fought, but you are different. You are special. You are meant to stop their evil plans and free the villagers from their suffering. And you alone can do it. The time is now. Go home and face her. Go and save the people. I shook my head. Hearing all this only added to my fear. I could feel goose pimples forming all over my body. I can't. I can't stand before her, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You can, my son. You have the power to do it. She's the one who cannot stand your glory. Go now and run before it's too late, he commanded. His last words filled me with determination, like one possessed by a strong power. I stood up, ready to confront Grandma and uncover the truth. Do not let anyone or anything distract you when you get home. Go straight to your grandmother's room. Under her bed, you will see a large cage hidden from sight. Inside are 7 white pigeons, each representing one of the 7 clans of Eziama village. And as long as these birds remain caged, the village remains under the dark spell of the wounded sisters. You have just one task. Set the birds free, the old man spoke in his usual mysterious tone. As I prepared to leave, I nodded, but before I could take my step, he added quickly, and don't forget, you are not doing this on your own accord. Just like your name implies, call upon the name of God, the chief warrior. He will shade you from the forces of darkness. Again, I nodded and began to walk slowly back. At one point, I turned around to take a look at the mysterious old man, but then I noticed he was no longer there. He had vanished into thin air. I quickened my pace and hurried home, suppressing the fear that was building inside of me. When I arrived home, I sighted Akwabata from the entrance of the house. She was sweeping the compound. As soon as she spotted me, boom, she rushed into Grandma's room exclaiming, "Mama, Obata Gokwa," meaning that he's back. As I approached, I noticed something unsettling about the broom she had discarded. It was the same broom Grandma had been holding when she burst into our bedroom the day before. But what caught my attention was a swarm of tiny black maggots falling from the broom's bristle. They seemed to be everywhere, crawling on the ground, covering the walls, and even filling the sky above. As I looked ahead, a shiny green object caught my eyes, dropping from the top of Grandma's chicken cage. Curiosity got the better of me, and I began to walk closer to investigate. But before I could take another step, the old man's words echoed in my mind. Do not let anyone or anything distract you. Go straight into your grandmother's room. I spun around and burst into Grandma's room, my heart racing with anticipation. The room was a dimly lit fetish-filled space with beads and black stones embedded everywhere on the walls. There were also numerous different sizes of clay pots sitting at every corner of the room. Grandma was sitting on a low stool, a large black calabash filled with water positioned in front of her. Aquabata was standing beside her, rummaging through a black bottle, her movement furtive, as though she was trying to quickly hide something away. When they saw me, they exchanged worried glances, their eyes wide with shock. Hey you, little chimp! Didn't you go to the hospital with your parents? What are you doing here? Grandma asked, her voice trembling slightly. Normally, the sight of her alone would send me scurrying the cling to my mother. But that morning was different. I felt like a new person. Unafraid. Her voice didn't intimidate me like it used to. It was like the voice of a little child. Without responding, I walked over to the bed, bent down, and looked beneath. The old man had been right. A large black cage sat there containing little birds, white for that matter, that seemed desperate to escape. What do you think you are doing? Grandma's voice broke in. I looked up to face her, and I could tell I saw fears in those pairs of eyes before she dimmed her glance. I am going to set this bird free, I declared, pointing at the cage. She quickly pushed the calabash aside and stood up, her movement swift. Aquabata paused too. What did you just say? Grandma demanded. I'm here to set the captives free, I repeated. The two women stared at each other, then burst into a thunderous laughter, making it look like I was saying nonsense or making some impossible statement. When the laughter finally subsided, Aquabata walked closer to me. Nah, don't you think that it's a bit too early to join your ancestors? She asked. Her voice sent shivers down my spine, but I refused to back down. A calm smile spread across my face. We will see who will be joining the ancestors soon enough, I said, bending down once more to reach for the cage. Grandma's eyes flashed with warning. If you know what is good for you, leave this room right now, she commanded. I shook my head. I'm not scared of your threats, Grandma. Not anymore, I said. But as I reached for the cage, a sudden force lifted me off the ground. I found myself suspended in mid-air, struggling fruitlessly against an unseen weapon. The room erupted in their laughter. Now, we will be joining the ancestors soon, she taunted. You both do not know what you are doing. Let down me, I cried. Ha 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 ha. They laughed even louder. You are going to remain up there until your ancestors come for you, Grandma said with a chuckle. I struggled and struggled, but the invisible forces holding me were greater than I could fight. I began to cry, but then the old man's words echoed in my mind. You are not fighting this battle alone, Boko Chuku. Call upon God and he will manifest his powers. Just then, I closed my eyes, and as the two women continued to laugh and make fun of me, I was busy muttering silent prayers to God. At one point, I felt something take hold of my lips, and I screamed with a loud voice, "Oh God, arise!" In an instant, the force holding me dissipated, and I fell to the ground. The two women stumbled backward, their laughter dying on their lips. But as we all sprang on our feet simultaneously, their eyes wide with shock, and something else filled their eyes, fear. Grandma stepped forward, her eyes blazing with a fierce intensity. For the last time, Boko, what name you have ever called yourself? Have you not caused enough harm? Aren't you tired of frustrating me? Aren't you tired of always ruining my plans? What do you want from me? From us this time, she demanded, her voice trembling with rage. I'm here to set everyone you have held in bondage, I declared, my voice bold and fearless. Every single one of them. I'm here to set them free. And who do you think you are? She screamed, her voice rising. Who are you to take away that which has been passed down through generations? That which was entrusted to me to keep safe? Who are you to dethrone me? she added, her eyes shining with an unnatural light. I, on my part, felt a surge of energy coursing through me, as if something ancient and powerful had awakened within me. I am the servant of the Most High, I declared, my voice ringing with authority. I am doing according to my Father's will. Now the Lord said, you have done enough. The captives must be set free, and the time is now. The word poured out to me like a torrent. It was as if I was no longer in control of my lips, my being. With that, I started moving towards the bed again. Little boy, for your own good, get back, Akwabata said. I ignored her and bent over the bed, determined to free the birds. But as I reached for the cage, for the second time, a strange metallic hinge seemed to materialize between my hand and the cage, holding it in place. The birds inside the cage began to squawk loudly, their voices filling the room. I struggled against the hinge, trying to pry it open, but it wouldn't budge. Just as I was wrestling with the cage, the women attacked me from both sides. First, it was just the two of them, Grandma and Akwabata. But then, there were many of them. Swarm of women, their faces twisted and wrinkled. They didn't just appear as human. They seemed to morph into various creatures. Cats with glowing eyes, mice with razor-sharp teeth, dogs with slobbering jaws. Though I felt their dark energy wash over me, trying to suffocate me, I refused to give up. Jesus, Jesus, fight for me. I kept screaming, my voice echoing off the walls. Just then, I discovered that I had powers I never knew I possessed. With each invocation, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, empowering me to fight back. The illusion disappeared instantly, and the two women stumbled backwards, their eyes widening in surprise as they realized that they were no match for the powers of the divine. Despite the pains in my hand, I managed to grip the cage tightly. With a triumphant cry, I yanked it open from the hinge. At that instant, Grandma went to her knees, her eyes pleading. Please, please don't do this. Don't let those birds escape. They are my life, she pleaded. Too late, Grandma, I said. Please, my son, you can't be fighting your grandma. Whatever I do is for the good of the family. Your father, yourself, and your mother. We are one big family. Please return the cage, she continued. As she spoke, she was crawling towards a big cupboard. Meanwhile, I tried a bunch of keys I found under the bed on the cage lock, and just when I finally found the right one, she flung the cupboard door open. Here, she exclaimed. I looked at her. She was holding up a small clay pot covered with red ribbon. It's fine. Here, you can go ahead and set the birds free. But mind you that once this pot in my hands touches the ground, you will never set eyes on your beloved mother ever again, she said, a mischievous smile playing across her lips. I paused. Yes, inside this pot lies your mother's fate, death or life. Set the birds free and lose your mother forever. Or hand the cage back and have the pot, she said. You can't do anything to my mom. You are powerless. I tried to sound brave. But honestly, the fear was gradually creeping back. Then try and see, she said. I looked at the birds in the cage, fluttering anxiously, eager to be set free. What should I do, I wondered. Suddenly, I felt a strong grip on my back. It was Akwabata. I was shocked because a few minutes she was lying on the other side of the bed, moaning in pain after she fell. I didn't even see her stand up. Without thinking, I quickly opened the cage, and the birds flew out happily. She ran after them in a futile effort to gather them back. Bye, I exclaimed happily, glad to have finally accomplished my task. But my joy was short-lived. I heard something fall. On turning, I saw Grandma lying on the ground shivering like one who is having seizure. But that was not what made my heart skip. The pot she was holding shattered on the floor beside her. I hope it had not. I went on my knees and started gathering the broken pieces of the pot together, tears streaming down my face. God, what have I done? I cried. But then I noticed something else. The room was in disarray. All the pots I saw sitting on every corner of the room when I first entered, all of them lay shattered, their contents spilling out. The stones and beads too have fallen off the walls on the floor. What was even stranger was the fact that I didn't even hear a single sound from them. Kwakuochukwu, a familiar voice called. I turned sharply. Dad was standing by the door. confusion evident on his face. My heart leaped with joy. "Daddy!" I exclaimed. Quickly, I threw the broken pieces away and ran to meet him. "Daddy, I have missed you so much," I exclaimed, burying my face on his stomach in a tight embrace. "What is going on here? Why is the room in a mess?" he asked, his voice troubled. But I ignored him and went ahead to ask after my mom. "Where is Mom?" I asked, looking towards the door expectantly. But before he could respond, his gaze fell upon Grandma, who was still on the floor trembling. Mama, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with her?" He panicked as he gently pushed me away and rushed to her. As he was attending to her, I quickly ran outside, excitedly calling out to my mom. I couldn't wait to let her know about the old man and Grandma's secret. "Mommy, mommy, mommy!" But she neither responded nor was she there in the car, in the room, or anywhere in the compound. Fear gripped me once again as I reflected on Grandma's word earlier. Yes, inside this pot lies your mother's fate, death or life. Set the bed free and lose your mother forever, or hand the cage back and have the pot. "No, no, no," I screamed and ran back to Grandmother's room. By now, Dad was kneeling beside her. "Dad, where is Mom?" I cried. "Pokochukwu, get a wrapper, let's take Grandma to the hospital," he screamed. "No, where is my mommy?" I asked again. He made an attempt to sweep her off the floor, but Grandma raised a weak hand up and held him on the jaw hesitantly. Mba, no, no, no," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not again, Mama. Don't tell me no this time. I'm taking you to the hospital right away," he said. "It's already too late," she added, her breath seizing. "Too late for what?" Just then, we could hear the sound of a crowd of people approaching the house. Dad and I exchanged worried glances. "They are here for me," Grandma muttered. "I don't understand. Who is here for you?" Dad asked. She began to cough out her words. I killed your father." Well, that was no news to me. The old man already told me how all the members of the wounded sisters have this tradition of sacrificing their husbands at a certain age, of which Dad wouldn't have been an exception when he had agreed to marry Akwabata. But Dad didn't take this confession seriously. It was surprising how he still didn't believe his mother was capable of doing evil, despite all the fetish things he was seeing scattered all over the room. "Please stop. You don't even know what you are saying. Allow me to take you to the hospital," he pleaded. By now, the crowd was already inside the compound. The sound of war song plus the sound of wooden and metallic objects on the walls filled the air. "I'm sorry, son. Please forgive me," Grandma cried, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, Biko, stop this. You killed Papa. As how? As who?" he argued. "As a witch," a hoarse voice said from the door. Dad and I turned as three able-bodied men walked into the room. "Are you all right?" Dad asked, his anger evident. Now it happened that as the deliverance session was happening in Grandma's room, the other witches gathered in the village square planning to launch a counter-attack. However, they couldn't withstand the divine power that was unleashed. One by one, they began to fall, some dying instantly, while others were left confessing their evil deeds to a gathering of shocked villagers. "Onyedikachi, you have to accept the bitter truth. Your mother here is a witch. She and her fellow coven members have done a lot of damages to this village. We have been in their bondage unknowingly for years. And we are the ones," the host voice was explaining, before Dad's voice cut him off. "Enough!" he screamed. For some seconds, the room fell silent. "How dare you? What makes you think you can walk in here and say trash about my mother? In my presence," he roared. Grandma held him to calm down. "I did it, Onyedikachuku. I did everything," Grandma muttered. "What is that?" "You did what?" Dad asked. "The miscarriages, the fire in your shop, the bleeding. I'm responsible," she continued. Dad let go of her instantly. "What? Are you being serious, Mama?" he asked. "I'm sorry, my son," she cried. "You killed Papa? You killed Papa? You killed... Wait, you are responsible for my wife's... You killed my wife!" Dad asked, eyebrow widening. And that was it. Every other thing he said after the sound distant, like a buzzing in my ears. The world around me began to spin. and I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. No, 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 I screamed, dashing out of the room in a state of panic. Outside, a mob of angry village youths stood, their faces twisted with rage. Stop! Stop that little boy, someone shouted. But I was too fast. I dodged and waved through the crowd, running into the nearby bushes where I collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollable. The sound of chaos and confusion faded into distance as I buried my face in the dirt, overwhelmed by the weight of what I had just heard. My mother! Tears streamed down my face, and my body shook with convulsive sobs. Just then, a hand touched my neck. I lifted up my head to behold my friend, the mysterious old man. He wore the same outfit, but he looked a little brighter than the last time. Victory at last! The village of Eziama is now free from the bondage of darkness, he exclaimed in excitement. I shook my head. My mom, I sobbed. I saved everyone, but I couldn't save my mommy. I cried. His countenance changed instantly. Yeah, we saved some, and we lose some, he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't understand what he meant, and I didn't care. All I knew was that I wanted my mommy back. Sir, my mommy, I want to see my mommy. I continued crying. For a long moment he said nothing, letting me cry out my grief. I cried until there was no more tears in my eyes. He made me sit on his lap and began to say soothing words to me. There is a purpose for whatever the Lord allows to happen, he began. Though I didn't see any purpose in my mother's death, I kept calm listening to him. He went on to make me see why I should be happy even in difficult moments of my life. Your mother may be dead here, but not on the other side, and she's proud of you, he concluded. When he was done, he kissed me on the forehead and disappeared before my eyes, and that was the last I ever saw him. I got up and returned home. By now, the village youths were carrying Grandma away on a wooden stretcher, her frail body still. We are taking her to the evil forest where she belongs. I overheard someone from the crowd say. I found Dad standing nearby, his eyes red from crying, his body shaking with sobs. I rushed to him, throwing my arms around his waist. He held me tightly, his tears falling onto my shoulder. We lost her, my son. We lost your mom, he whispered. I know, I muttered tearfully. We'll be fine, I said. Grandma, alongside the other witches, about 750 of them, were taken away from the village to the heart of the evil forest. Akwabata was not found until the next morning. She was found crossing the village stream into a neighboring village. Before her execution, she had narrated everything that she witnessed in Grandma's room that morning to the villagers. That boy, Bokochuku, is not little. There is something about him, she had testified. The same morning, Dad and I were preparing to go to the mortuary when the villagers stormed the compound, singing songs of praises. What again? Dad asked, his voice weak. You have taken away the witch you sought. What else do you want from us? He asked. For a response, someone, a giant young man, stepped forward from among the crowd, and before I knew it, he grabbed me and made me sit on his shoulder. He then started running around the compound, the others clapping and singing, Kpoko kpoko ka anyị gaa geso, money jeje mona nyanya kpoko ka anyị geso. It's just a song that portrays me as their hero. I rejoiced with them quite alright, but after I was brought down and granted an opportunity to speak, the strange spirit took over me again, making them understand that I was not God but a vessel in his hands. Furthermore, I seized the opportunity to preach to them, pleading with them to turn away from their wicked ways and embrace Christ wholeheartedly. I spoke at length until the small gathering suddenly transformed into a crusade ground. The villagers listened intently, some with tears streaming down their faces, others with look of admiration. Dad stood at a corner watching me with a mixture of awe and fear, as if seeing a different person. God is calling you, I continued, my voice filled with emotion. He's calling you to repentance, to forgiveness, and to salvation. Do not let the enemy hold you captive anymore. Break free from the chain of sins and darkness. Let Christ set you free, I concluded. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, some crying out to God for mercy and forgiveness. It was a moment of divine intervention, a turning point in the lives of the villagers. and I was humbled to be part of it. A week later, Mom was laid to rest in a quiet traditional ceremony, honoring her memory and legacy. I was initially slated to be the king, but due to my age and Igbo tradition, which dictates that a child cannot rule over their father, Dad was crowned the king of Eziama community. Initially, he vowed never to remarry after Mom's passing, but then he realized I had a different plan. He eventually married a beautiful young woman who worked as a teacher in a neighboring village. Coincidentally, she was the descendant of Ododuwa, and together they had 2 children. As for me, Reverend Father Prince Kpoku Sindara Onaga, I have found my calling in Italy, where I pastor and serve the Lord. It was bittersweet that Mom, who fought tirelessly for her love and our family, didn't live to see this glorious day. Yet, I found solace in the knowledge that she's in a better place, watching over us with joy. It's been 20 years working in the Lord's vineyard, and I'm humbled by the opportunity to spread His message of love and redemption and peace. Thank you so much for watching.